Uh-huh.
It's really interesting. A lot of them are just not looking at him at all, even though he's standing and talking.
Right.
That's really interesting. Nobody's amused, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, they just thought it was puzzling that they would be out considering all the things that have been said in this war between Blake and Justin. So
imagine if everything you thought you knew about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds was a lie. For years, they've been Hollywood's golden couple, but now celebrities are finally coming forward, exposing how Blake and Ryan allegedly tried to scam them. We're talking about ruthless manipulation, twisted power plays, and a scheme so shocking it's left Hollywood in utter chaos. And here's the craziest part. This alleged scam has been happening for years. But why did they do it? And how deep does this scandal really go? Stick around because you won't believe what we uncovered. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the couple everyone loves to love. Their charm, humor, and seemingly perfect relationship have made them Hollywood's most adored power duo. But now their once flawless image is unraveling. And what's being revealed? It's nothing short of shocking. For years, they've maintained their pristine reputation with carefully crafted PR stunts, playful social media banter, and charitable deeds. But what if all of that was just a smokescreen to hide something far darker? Because the truth about their empire of perfection is starting to spill out, and it all began with one explosive accusation. The scandal erupted when Blake Lively accused her. It ends with us co-star and director Justin Baldoni of harassment. But instead of issuing a quiet denial, Baldoni retaliated with a lawsuit so massive it made headlines worldwide. A staggering $400 million lawsuit aimed directly at Blake and Ryan. His allegations? Defamation, extortion, and a ruthless attempt to seize control of the film project. The sheer scale of the lawsuit left everyone speechless. But what happened next was even more disturbing. As word of Baldoni's lawsuit spread, other celebrities began hinting at their own troubling encounters with Hollywood's so-called perfect couple. And their stories? They were even worse. Hollywood is built on power and influence. And according to insiders, Ryan and Blake have mastered the game. Reports began emerging that the couple had been using aggressive PR strategies to control narratives, silence critics, and protect their spotless image at all costs. Their methods? Brutal, calculated, effective. And if the rumors are true, their so-called generosity and charm are nothing more than a strategic facade, one designed to keep the world distracted while they pull the strings behind the scenes. But even with all these accusations surfacing, the most damning revelation was yet to come, because one name kept popping up, and when she finally spoke out, everything changed. Rebecca Ferguson's story broke the internet. During an interview, she opened up about a horrifying on-set experience that left Hollywood reeling. According to Rebecca, a powerful co-star tormented her relentlessly. Day after day, she endured public humiliation, harsh criticism, and verbal attacks so vicious they left her in tears between takes. But Rebecca didn't just suffer in silence. When she couldn't take it anymore, she snapped. She told her tormentor to fuck off and demanded that she not even have to look at them during filming. Instead, she acted toward the back of their head rather than endure their presence. It was a bold move no one saw coming. But what really set the internet on fire was who people suspected her abuser might be, because one name kept coming up, and the clues were too damning to ignore. Rebecca's disturbing confession wasn't the first time Ryan Reynolds' name had been dragged into controversy. For years, rumors had been swirling about his strained relationships with co-stars, and one of the most shocking fallouts? His friendship with Jake Gyllenhaal. Once considered Hollywood's most hilarious bromance, their chemistry during the Life 2017 press tour was pure gold. But something changed. These days, Jake Gyllenhaal refuses to even acknowledge Ryan's existence, and fans have been left wondering what went so terribly wrong. But Jake's silence wasn't the only red flag, because another name was about to enter the conversation, and this time, the consequences would be even more brutal. Morena Baccarin was a fan favorite in the Deadpool franchise, playing Vanessa, Wade Wilson's love interest and emotional anchor. But when Deadpool 2 was released, something felt off. Morena's screen time was slashed, and her character was pushed aside like she never mattered. Insiders began whispering about a vicious fallout between Morena and Ryan. Some said it was over creative differences. Others believed it was personal. But whatever the truth, one thing was clear. Morena was being systematically erased. The biggest hint of all? When Deadpool and Wolverine premiered, Morena was nowhere to be found. And what happened on the red carpet was even more humiliating. The return of Hugh Jackman to the Deadpool franchise should have been a massive celebration. But instead, it became a painful reminder of just how far Ryan Reynolds' influence seemed to reach. At the premiere, Ryan was surrounded by friends, colleagues, and a buzzing media presence. But Morena, she was left standing alone, awkwardly isolated from the hype and the flashing cameras. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Fans quickly noticed, and the internet went wild with speculation. Had Ryan really used his power to push Morena aside? And if he was willing to do that to her, how many others had been crushed along the way? But as brutal as Morena Morena's snub was, the darkest revelations were still waiting to be exposed. Blake and Ryan's reputation has always been spotless, the golden couple who could do no wrong. But the Baldoni lawsuit was like a wrecking ball, shattering the door Hollywood had kept shut for years. Now, more and more celebrities are coming forward, hinting at their own disastrous encounters with the power couple. And if the accusations are true, then their empire of perfection is nothing more than a calculated lie. But here's the most terrifying part. The worst revelations? They're coming from someone Hollywood never expected to speak out. And when they do, Ryan and Blake's entire empire could crumble before their eyes.
Did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star. This human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out. And I think I was so vulnerable and comfortable that I got screamed at. And I would cry walking off set. This person would literally look at me in front of the whole crew and say, "You call yourself an actor, this is what I have to work with. What is this?" And I stood there just breaking. This happens. Because this person was number one on a call sheet, there was no safety net for me. So no one had my back. And I remember the next day I walked on and I said, "You get off my set." It's the first time I've ever spoken.
Hollywood has always had its dark side, but Rebecca Ferguson's explosive revelation about a toxic on-set experience hit the industry like a bombshell. She refused to name names, but the brutal details were enough to send everyone into a frenzy of speculation. According to Rebecca, her nightmare began with a co-star so consumed by insecurity that their cruelty seemed almost calculated. Screaming, belittling, public humiliation. The abuse was so relentless that Rebecca admitted she often broke down in tears between takes. But Rebecca didn't stay silent. Furious and fed up, she finally snapped, telling her tormentor to fuck off and demanding she never have to look at them while filming. Instead, she'd act to the back of their head rather than endure their presence. It was a bold move no one saw coming. But the most shocking part? This was only the beginning of a much darker story. Rebecca's confession went viral, sparking a flood of support from fellow actors. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson praised her courage, while other co-stars reached out privately to share their own horror stories. But for many, the biggest question was, who was the toxic co-star? Speculation ran wild. Rebecca quickly dismissed names like Tom Cruise and Hugh Jackman, but when Ryan Reynolds' name started popping up, everything took a sinister turn. Because Rebecca's nightmare wasn't just an isolated incident, and Ryan Reynolds, he's been linked to troubling feuds before, ones that could destroy his carefully curated image forever. Rumors of Ryan Reynolds clashing with co-stars have been swirling for years, but the most shocking fallout? His friendship with Jake Gyllenhaal. Once considered Hollywood's most hilarious bromance, Ryan and Jake's friendship seemed unbreakable during their press tour for Life, 2017. Their playful chemistry and comedic interviews were everywhere. But then, everything changed. Today, Jake Gyllenhaal won't even acknowledge Ryan publicly. Fans quickly noticed the eerie silence, suspecting that something serious had happened behind the scenes. A betrayal? A clash of egos? Whatever it was, it shattered their friendship beyond repair. But Jake wasn't the only one allegedly burned by Ryan's dark side, because the next name that came up, it shocked everyone. Then there's Morena Baccarin, Ryan's Deadpool co-star and beloved actress who played Vanessa, Wade Wilson's emotional anchor and the heart of the story. Fans adored her character, but when Deadpool 2 premiered, something was terribly wrong. Morena's screen time was brutally cut, her character sidelined with barely any explanation, and fans couldn't help but wonder, was this just a creative decision or something far more personal? Insiders began whispering about an intense fallout between Morena and Ryan. Some claimed it was over her character's diminished role, while others suggested it was due to certain jokes Ryan wanted included that Morena refused to approve. But if their clash was serious enough to have her erased from promotional events, what does that say about Ryan's influence behind the scenes? And when Deadpool and Wolverine hit theaters, the truth became even more obvious. The return of Hugh Jackman to the Deadpool franchise had fans buzzing with excitement, but Morena Baccarin's absence from the spotlight left everyone wondering what really happened. At the Deadpool and Wolverine premiere, the contrast was painfully clear. While Ryan Reynolds was surrounded by friends, colleagues, and a swarming media presence, Morena was left standing alone, visibly out of place. The internet exploded with speculation. Had Ryan used his influence to shut her out? Was her exclusion a deliberate act of revenge? And if Ryan was willing to go this far to protect his image, how many others had he crushed along the way? But the real bombshell was yet to drop. And when it did, it shook Hollywood to its core. The deeper people dug, the uglier the pattern became. Rumors of Ryan's manipulation, retaliation, and cold-hearted ambition only grew louder. But he wasn't the only one allegedly abusing his power. Blake Lively's feud with It Ends With Us director Justin Baldoni was was already making headlines. Their creative clashes reportedly forced changes in the film's production, and fans couldn't help but notice the awkward tension during red carpet events, moments that hinted at unresolved issues boiling just beneath the surface. But as more stories of their alleged manipulation came to light, one thing became painfully clear. Hollywood's golden couple might not be as untouchable as they seem. And if what's coming next is true, their empire could be crumbling before our very eyes. For years, powerful Hollywood figures have used their influence to bury the truth. But social media has changed everything. No longer can actors' voices be silenced by studio executives or smothered by PR campaigns. Rebecca Ferguson's decision to speak out, even without naming her tormentor, sparked a wildfire of speculation and support. And the more people came forward, the more undeniable the pattern became. But if you think this story ends here, you're dead wrong. Because the most damning revelations about Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, they're still waiting to be exposed. And what's about to be revealed could obliterate their carefully constructed empire once and for all.
I think after he got super famous from the first Deadpool, then things kind of changed. I think he was like, see, you guys see. And then I think I don't know. I mean, would I work with him again? No.
No.
I would not work with him
that
again.
much vitriol.
But I've said that about Michael Bay, and now we're friends, and I would work with him again. But I think Michael Bay is different. And Michael Bay worked on a movie with Ryan Reynolds also. And so he has a very specific opinion.
That may mirror
of
your
Ryan
own.
Reynolds. And that was a good part of our last conversation with me and Bay. But I sort of wish him well because he's so good at Deadpool. And I think it's weird that he hates me.
Ryan Reynolds' flawless Hollywood image is starting to show serious cracks. And one of the most damning accusations yet, it's coming from none other than his Deadpool co-star, TJ Miller. Miller, who played the wisecracking weasel in the Deadpool franchise, didn't just walk away from the series, he ran. And not only that, he made it crystal clear he would never work with Ryan Reynolds again. Not even if he was offered double the paycheck for Deadpool 3. That's not just business, that's personal. But what was it that made Miller's experience with Reynolds so unbearable? According to him, Ryan's behavior on set was nothing short of cruel, mean-spirited, intentional. Miller claims that Reynolds would go out of his way to put him down, and this wasn't some playful, sarcastic banter. It was something much darker. Because if Miller's accusations are true, Ryan's need to undermine him wasn't about anything Miller did. It was about Ryan's own insecurities, his need to constantly remind everyone who the real star was. And Miller's role? Far too minor to be treated with any real respect. But Miller's story wasn't the only one tarnishing Ryan's golden image. Because the whispers of Ryan's toxic behavior, they were starting to sound a lot more like screams. Ryan Reynolds has built his brand on self-deprecating humor and effortless likability. The charming, sarcastic guy who never takes himself too seriously. But if you believe the people who've worked with him, that entire persona might be nothing but an act. The accusations have been piling up, and more insiders are suggesting that behind the scenes, Ryan is nothing like the charismatic guy the public sees. Instead, they describe someone far more controlling, far more calculated, and willing to do whatever it takes to maintain his status. For TJ Miller, his experience on Deadpool wasn't just unpleasant, it was traumatic. And his decision to walk away from the franchise altogether wasn't something he took lightly, because actors rarely turn down high-paying gigs in successful franchises unless something truly disturbing happened. And the more Miller talked, the more the pieces started to fall into place. But here's the thing, Miller's departure from Deadpool was just the beginning, because what was about to come out would make his story look tame by comparison.
But you felt it coming from him.
Everybody did. That's why it was awkward. Everybody was like, why is Ryan doing this? And the other weird thing is like, maybe I think he's kind of an insecure dude. He's really nice, but I mean, his Twitter bio is showing you the parts of me that tested the best in focus groups. And I'm not sure that he's joking. I think that might actually be his real sentiment there.
Ryan Reynolds has built an empire on charm, sarcasm, and a perfectly polished persona. As the face of Deadpool and one of Hollywood's most beloved comedic actors, his reputation has always been one of effortless likability. But behind the humor and charisma, a disturbing pattern is starting to emerge. And if these allegations are true, Ryan's perfect image may be nothing but a carefully constructed lie. For years, insiders have hinted that beneath Ryan's seemingly friendly demeanor lies a man deeply plagued by insecurity and and possessiveness. And those traits? They've allegedly left scars both professionally and personally. Ryan's personal life has been far from picture perfect. His marriage to Scarlett Johansson was once seen as Hollywood royalty until it crumbled within just a few years. But it's what happened during their relationship that has everyone talking. According to Johansson, Ryan's insecurities were a constant issue. She's openly hinted at jealousy being a major factor in their split, once stating, "I don't like jealous behavior. When somebody is passive-aggressively jealous, it's unattractive because it shows insecurity." Her words didn't stop there. She went on to describe controlling behavior as awful and made it clear that no one would ever love that. The implication was brutal. Ryan wasn't just insecure about her skyrocketing career. He was actively trying to control the narrative. And the worst part? Scarlett admitted that in any marriage, one person will always be more successful than the other. But for Ryan, being the less successful one wasn't an option. His ego simply couldn't handle it. And when Scarlett's star rose faster than his, their marriage collapsed under the weight of his obsession with control. But if Ryan's jealousy was as toxic as Scarlett suggested, then his next move was even more troubling. The ink was barely dry on Ryan's divorce papers when he met Blake Lively on the set of Green Lantern. And here's the kicker. He was still married to Johansson when their undeniable chemistry started making waves. Their scenes together reportedly sizzled with an intensity that couldn't be hidden. It was obvious to everyone around them. Ryan was already emotionally invested in Blake. But was their relationship genuine? Or was it nothing more than a desperate attempt to regain control after losing Scarlett? Insiders couldn't help but wonder if Ryan's need to prove himself as the dominant force in a relationship had led him straight into Blake's arms. But his toxic behavior didn't just affect his personal life, it was tearing apart his professional world too. Professionally, Ryan Reynolds' reputation is anything but squeaky clean. While Deadpool was a massive success, the chaos behind the scenes painted a much darker picture. Tim Miller, the original director of Deadpool, was forced out of the franchise after clashing repeatedly with Ryan. And when Miller finally opened up about what happened, his words were brutal. "I don't mind having a debate, but if I can't win, I don't want to play." According to Miller, Ryan's possessiveness over the character and creative decisions made collaboration impossible. It wasn't about working together. It was about Ryan having complete control. And once it became clear that Ryan had the final say, Miller knew it was time to walk away. But Tim Miller wasn't the only director to have issues with Ryan. And what the next one had to say was nothing short of brutal. Ryan Reynolds' reputation among directors only continued to fall apart. And one of his most vocal critics, legendary director Quentin Tarantino. Tarantino didn't hold back, flat out dismissing Ryan as nothing more than a well-paid actor with zero quality projects under his belt. He even went after Netflix's strategy of funding movies like Red Notice, claiming that while they might rake in millions, no one remembers them. But Tarantino wasn't the only one disgusted by Ryan's tactics. Chris Columbus, the director behind Home Alone, also had a nasty run-in with Ryan when the actor pitched a reboot of the holiday classic. The twist? The new version, titled Stoned Alone, revolved around a stoner who gets high and defends his home from thieves. Columbus was furious, calling the idea an insult to cinema and shutting down the proposal immediately. Even actors have thrown shade. Gerard Butler, when asked about comparisons between his movie Gamer and Ryan's Free Guy, didn't hesitate to brush him off. "I don't know what Free Guy is." And when pressed further, he added, "I don't watch Ryan Reynolds films." But Gerard's brutal dismissal was just one more piece of a disturbing puzzle. And what was about to be revealed next would only make things worse. The pattern is impossible to ignore. From Scarlett Johansson's remarks about Ryan's jealousy to Tim Miller's frustration with his overbearing control, the same word keeps surfacing: insecurity. Even in an industry where egos run rampant, Ryan appears to stand out, not as the charming, confident leading man his fans adore, but as someone threatened by anyone who dares to challenge his dominance. But is it all just Hollywood gossip? Sure, creative differences and breakups are nothing new, but when respected figures like Tarantino, Columbus, and Johansson all point to the same personality flaws, it becomes impossible to dismiss as mere rumor. And if Ryan's carefully curated image is nothing but a facade, then his next move might be the most shocking of all.
How's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard? Yeah. Okay. My question is that you know that the materials that they made the cone heads with are those edible?
Edible? No. And based on them being made in 1975, I'd assume that they're highly toxic.
Oh. Okay. So if somebody, hypothetically took a couple of nibbles backstage and got excited, should they go to the hospital or should they?
Yes, they should go to the hospital right away.
Good.
Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's SNL appearance was supposed to charm the public. Instead, it turned into a PR nightmare. Hosting the 50th anniversary special, Ryan tried joking about his messy legal battle with Justin Baldoni. Blake played along, but the humor fell painfully flat. Fans weren't laughing. They were furious. Making light of harassment allegations, it reeked of desperation. What was meant to be clever damage control ended up exposing something much darker. But what happened after the show made it clear. Hollywood's golden couple was losing their grip, and fast. The backlash was instant. Social media tore the couple apart for mocking something so serious. Baldoni's lawyer publicly condemned the stunt, calling it cruel and out of touch. Ryan and Blake's image as Hollywood's golden couple was being ripped to shreds. Their playful, relatable charm was starting to feel fake, and as the criticism poured in, it was obvious. Their desperate attempt to control the narrative had backfired, but the real nightmare was just beginning, and what came next would push their crumbling image even closer to disaster. Ryan and Blake's brand has always been built on humor and charm, roasting each other on social media, acting like the perfect down-to-earth couple. But the SNL disaster shattered that illusion. What once seemed effortless now looked calculated, desperate. Their attempt to play off a serious controversy as a joke only made the whispers of manipulation and cruelty grow louder. But if they thought the backlash would blow over, they were wrong. Because the truth about their carefully curated image was about to be exposed, and it was worse than anyone could have imagined. The fallout from Ryan and Blake's SNL disaster wasn't just bad PR, it was a tipping point. Fans and critics alike were starting to see through the act. What once looked like a playful, down-to-earth couple was beginning to feel like a carefully constructed lie. But the worst part? The allegations weren't stopping. More voices were coming forward, more horror stories about the ruthless tactics Ryan and Blake allegedly used to maintain their spotless image. And if even half of them were true, their entire empire was about to come crashing down. And here's the terrifying truth. The most damning revelations are still waiting to be exposed. For years, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively have been Hollywood's golden couple. Untouchable. Perfect. But if all these allegations are true, then everything they've built is about to collapse. So what do you think? Is this just a smear campaign by their enemies? Or is Hollywood's most adored couple finally being exposed for who they really are? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want the truth about Ryan and Blake's crumbling empire, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because trust me, this story is far from over.